Hi, I'm Jun Xiao Tan, and my debut fantasy novel, Jade Fire Gold, is inspired by Chinese mythology. It follows a girl who's cursed with dark magic, teaming up with an exiled prince bent on revenge.
Jun Seo-tan is the Singaporean author of Jade Fire Gold, which was published in late 2021. This book takes place in a world filled with forbidden magic and follows two characters who are brought together after losing everything. Hi, I'm Gemma and welcome to the red carpet. June is here to talk to us about Jade Fire Gold. Hi June, I'm so excited to finally have you here with us.
Hi, Gemma. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. In your book, we follow An and Alton, two characters who start off their journeys for different reasons, but ultimately come together for a singular goal. The first time I read your book, I had so much fun watching people who are essentially enemies find a home in each other. Can you start off by telling us more about the book?
So, the book follows these two main characters that you mentioned, An and Altan. An is a peasant girl, and she eventually discovers that she was cursed with dark magic. Kind of very YA protagonist style, kind of trope stuff. And Altan is her foil. So he's an exiled prince who's bent on revenge and he wants to reclaim the thrones, which kind of is like YA trophy again. But the twist to me is using the chosen one trope and twisting it on its head. And also the setting of the book, which is very much inspired by ancient China and Chinese mythology. I'm Singaporean, but I'm Singaporean Chinese. So, a lot of the cultural aspects from 5,000 years of Chinese history, is ingrained in my life. So I wanted to write something that sort of combines all the stuff that I read about when I was a kid growing up in Singapore and all the wuxia, which means martial arts, movies and stories that I watched and read and, put it in English, I guess, in the form of a YA fantasy novel.
The rise of Asian historical fantasy novels is such a great thing to see these days. And I'm so happy to have one, like your book, be one of our featured books. So the tagline for your book is "A girl who doesn't remember her past, a boy who remembers it all too well." I love the duality of these struggles. And as you mentioned, they are foils. But how did you create these complex characters?
So this is really cheesy and cliche. I feel like Stephanie Meyer who talking about Twilight, but it came to me in a dream. Or rather, one day I had a dream about a girl in a desert, and I knew that she was trying desperately to survive. She was living in poverty. She had a grandmother who was sick. And, in my dream, she was just surrounded by a lot of sand in the desert. And the sand was actually a beast, like devouring and eating everything, whether it's vegetation or, people or like houses and villages and so on. So when I woke up, I was like, that's weird, so I just went on my day. And I think like maybe a couple of days later, I went to the movies and I watched The Force Awakens. The book isn't Star Wars inspired, but when I saw I think it was the beginning scene or one of the early scenes of Rey standing in the desert, trying to survive, eking out a living as sort of like a thief kind of character. And I was like, is this a sign? So I thought about my dream. I thought a little further about, Anne, this character and who she was. And then eventually I realized that her story ties in with this boy, this, exiled prince, self-exiled prince, whose entire family was murdered. That's not a spoiler, it's pretty obvious. And to make them complex, I guess, is really just what writing and storytelling is about, because we're writing all these characters and we want them to move or touch readers. And you got to think of them as human, like individual characters who have their hopes and dreams, their goals, their fears, what makes them happy, what makes them sad. And, like while starting the story, I was basically planned it. Well, I didn't plan the whole story out, but I planned the characters in terms of like, okay, this is a girl. This is how old she is. This is how she looks. This is what she wears, and, what things she would say, what she likes, who she loves most, who she hates most, what she loves most, what she hates most. So it sort of like helps you when you're writing. And of course, there's a revision process where you start to refine, each character as you get to know them more and more and, know your story better. Yeah.
Right. These characters, though, they're also the underdogs of the story. They're beaten down and, just trying to survive. Why should we root for them?
Well, because I feel like everybody roots for underdogs, because obviously I think if you read a book about a protagonist where everything goes their way, you could still cheer them on, but it's kind of boring because, we are the protagonists of our story, right? We're main characters and our lives aren't perfect. And, like obstacles get thrown in front of us and then we overcome them. We feel this sense of accomplishment. So same when you're reading a book, like if this princess is just going to be queen and she's going to be a great ruler and nothing happens and she marries Prince Charming, there's no wicked witch, there's no curse or anything, you're kind of like, okay, so what, So I feel like creating, even if they're not truly underdogs, like people with, book characters who have obstacles lined up in front of them, but they still persevere despite of that. I think that's more compelling to read about. Yeah.
Absolutely. The perseverance that you mentioned, the growth that they go through is the reason why I love reading books. Your book also features a larger cast of characters who support the storyline. How did you give them distinct personalities and motivations?
So interestingly, a lot of readers who have read Jade Firegold always ask about the side characters. Some of them have even said that, oh, I love the side characters so much more than your main characters. And I'm like, is that a compliment? I don't know. But I take it as a compliment because I think it's always awesome when you're watching something, whether it's a drama, a movie, or you read a book, and the side characters just spring to life. And I think when I was writing that, that was what I was trying to do. And as to how to go about doing that, I'm not a craft master when it comes to writing. I'm still new. But what I tried to go back to was basically every character who has significant screen time is the main character of their story. Just like what I said earlier, all of us were the protagonists in our life story. So, for example, there is a Empress Dowager in the book, Zhenxi. And when I was building her character, even though she doesn't appear that often, just a couple of scenes here and there, she's important to the story. So I was like, she's going to be really flat if I don't know anything about her. So I actually thought about what her backstory is. I wrote out some scenes that weren't in the book, but how she would talk, how she would present herself, what her aims and what her goals are. So that's kind of how I build up the side characters one by one.
I think in your book, the side characters are so strong and they all support the storyline, which is what I think one of the strengths of the book is and why I enjoyed it so much. Your book centers around magic and how it's forbidden. How did you do your world building here?
So the world building, I had a lot of fun with that. And a lot of it ties back to what I was talking about earlier about how, what I set out to do when I wrote this book. So growing up in Singapore, I hung out a lot with my cousins over the summer holidays, over the weekends at my grandmother's place. And I guess to just keep us in line, we would watch a lot of TV. We were allowed to watch a lot of TV. And a lot of it was all these like productions of Jin Yong, or I think his name is other name is Louis Cha. His novels, his martial arts novels, like Return of the Condor Heroes and so on. And basically like watching all of that, I was like, yeah, everyone's gonna be able to fight, even the women, and you'll be like martial arts style and all that. And they were wearing all these beautiful robes and all that. So a lot of the world building was inspired by what I consumed in my childhood. And of course, like current C dramas and even fantasy K dramas that, I watch now, and, it's all linked together. Yeah.
So, like you said, this book is heavily inspired by Chinese mythology and folklore. Can you explain some of the cultural aspects to our audience who may not be as familiar with it?
Some of them are spoilers or Easter eggs that I added because I thought it would be kind of cool if a reader who doesn't really know Chinese culture were to read it, and they just absorb it, but they don't get another layer. But it doesn't detract from the story. But someone who actually knows Chinese culture will be like, oh, I get what that means. I get this double meaning in this word and all that. So that was really fun. And I guess the main thing I would reveal to readers who are unfamiliar is there's this tale that is told about the blacksmith and the swords, and it's not real in the sense that I made it up. I took certain elements like the Peach of Immortality, which appears in Journey to the West, which is a seminal Chinese classic novel, and I just took bits and pieces of it, and then sort of make my own, I don't know, form of Chinese-esque culture. But other things that readers might notice is the reoccurrence of mooncakes, certain festivals like Tomb Sweeping Day, Spring Festival, Ancestors Day. All these are actually real life festivals that are practiced. And Chang'e, the moon goddess, still plays a big part in, Chinese culture, because we have an entire festival, the Mid-Autumn Festival, devoted to her and her legend. And no spoilers, but it sort of like ties in with the book. If you read it, you might get it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed all the, as you said, Easter eggs. They were additional snippets of, my childhood that I could recognize rather than just, oh, this is something new. But I'm sure that audience who doesn't recognize it would enjoy it just as much. So Jade Fire Gold is an unconventional title. What is the meaning behind this?
I don't know. If you read a lot of YA fantasy, you remember like maybe in like 2016 and 2018 or even 2019, there was a lot of noun of noun and noun. So a lot of titles were like that. So originally the book was called The Life Stealer, and it was kind of like boring. Well, I didn't think it was boring, but my agent then thought it was kind of like, it doesn't tell you anything. And then we came up with A Sword of Jade and Fire. But then there were so many books that were the same. I was like, no. So I basically brainstormed by like putting down all the words that reoccur or I think about when I, thought about my own story. And I realized that a lot of times I kept coming back to jade and fire. And then gold also occurs. When you read the book, you realize that it's very important. It's an important clue for one character. And I was just staring at these three words, permutating them with other words and nouns and verbs. And then I suddenly thought, jade, fire, gold, jade, fire, gold. It sounds kind of nice. It's not a real sentence. It doesn't really mean anything. But, jade represents a specific character. So does gold. And fire kind of ties in with the antagonist or the villain.
Ooh.
So, that's how the title came about. Yeah.
I love it. What did you want people to understand about the sense of culture versus having it ripped away and fighting for the greater good versus being an individual?
So I feel like the whole, people like to say, write what you know. And because of my background, I feel like what I know is not just Chinese culture, but it's like, growing up in Asia, in an Asian society. And I mean, I'm an Asian, which is slightly different from an Asian American who grew up here, I feel. And I feel like the sense of collectivism is very, very strong. And it's always about pleasing your parents, pleasing society, and so on. I'm sure it happens here too, but it's like 10 times worse because everybody is like that. There's no this sense of like, oh, I can do what I want, I can achieve my dreams. It's no, if your parents say you have to be this, you have to be this, and so on. So that actually ties in a little bit with one specific character, which is the Crown Prince, Taishun, in the book. And as I was writing his character, it kind of just, I don't know, I guess like subliminally, like, my own trauma was going into the book. So I was just writing his character and how like, is he going to stand up to his mother? Is he going to like just do things for the greater good? Or is he going to like try to seek the kind of life that he wants to? And I think that somehow it just, came out in the book. And I guess like sometimes writing is therapy and you go through like, the kind of experiences that you've gone through as a person, and it just shows up in certain characters. And as for how culture might have been ripped away, although I don't think that in Jade Fire Gold it's terribly obvious unless you come from a place where perhaps your family or your ancestors have gone through colonization or imperialism, or having to run away from an authoritarian regime, which happens a lot, to I mean, I think a lot of Asian American families feel that, you know, their parents or grandparents. So in a way, in Jade Fire Gold, there's this thread that runs through. Even though An isn't colonized in that sense, but the village that she lives in, it was mentioned that, you know, it used to be part of a different country. And then there's Elton, and he is a self-exiled prince. And his family were colonizers. They were like trying to conquer the whole world, you know, his grandfather and so on. And this is not a spoiler, but he's the redemptive character, you know, and he's trying to make things right, whether for the empire or for just for his own soul, you know. But I think he's also a little naive when it comes to that. You know, he thinks that, oh, you know, if I get back the throne, I'll be a good ruler, everything will be fine. But there's this one scene that I really, really loved writing, where he meets the ambassador for one of the countries whose lands were colonized by his ancestors. And the ambassador says, do you really think that if you just give back my lands, you know, everything will be fine? Because there's so much trauma that goes through colonization. And my grandparents actually went through it during World War II when the Japanese Imperial Army kind of stormed most of Asia, as you know. And, you know, Singapore was a Japanese colony for a while, and a lot of culture gets lost that way. And that's something I was trying to show in Jade Fire Gold. Yeah.
I think you did a great job. It really resonated with me as well. Thank you for that. What are you most excited for readers to experience?
That's a difficult question. I feel like when you put a book out into the world, it's no longer yours in a sense. So every reader is going to experience a different thing. You know, they might pick up things that you didn't even know. Like, I didn't know that my side characters would resonate so much with people, especially the lesbian assassin who was really sassy and confident, Tang Wei. But like, so many people are like, oh my God, you know, can you do a spin-off on her? You know, you write a short story about her. And I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. So I feel like I'm not really sure what I want readers to take away. I would just like them to go in with an open mind to reading non-white fantasies, you know, and not be like, I don't know the names, that's strange, or like, I don't understand this word, you know, just go in with an open mind, read it, you know, get immersed in a different world, a different culture, and, you know, hopefully have a fun time.
I do too. That's why Red Carpet exists.
Yes.
So, do you listen to any K-pop?
I do. Why are you giving me that look? I wouldn't say like I'm a hardcore K-pop stan. I've been listening to K-pop for quite a long time, since the days of Big Bang and 2NE1. I'm so sad still about them. And now I still listen to you know, just assortment of bands that come out on my Spotify, and I only really stan BTS and, you know, Tomorrow by Together, TXT. Those are probably my two favorites, even though I'm, you know, aware of like SM groups and, you know, JYP groups and so on. But
What's your favorite BTS song?
no, you're not asking me that. Like no.
Okay, I'll spare you that one. Unless you want to show me your mug.
Oh. This when Mic Drop came out, and then I think this is from the Ellen interview. This is Tay, yeah, being sassy. But I don't really have a favorite BTS songs, but I think I do love their old songs more. You know, from like maybe 2016, 2017, 2018. Yeah.
I like their old songs too, like House of Cards and Tomorrow. Yeah. Those are such good songs. Jade Fire Gold is an exciting adventure book filled with magic and betrayal. Can you tease the audience with something from the book?
So there is this line that actually resonated with quite a lot of readers, and I was really surprised. And it's basically, history is never written by its victims. And it's not said out loud, but it's thought in the head of Altan as he, you know, is thinking about his life, his tragic life. And a lot of people like DM'd me or wrote me or in the reviews mentioning it. And that line actually means a lot to me. And I hope that when readers read it, they actually, you know, have a thought, have a think about it. And it actually comes from what Winston Churchill is supposedly said to have said. History is written by its victors. Whereas in the book, the theme is slightly different because there's this whole cover up of history, cover up of the truth. And because the victims have all passed and, that specific group of people were just slaughtered, So in a way, their stories are lost. So that line, history is never written by the victims because they're victims, really stood out to a lot of people. And I hope it's something that will appeal to readers who are watching this to pick up the book.
Although Jade Fire Gold is a standalone, do you have anything else upcoming?
I do actually. It hasn't been announced yet. Maybe we'll be announcing it soon. It's actually a duology that's, I think Kpop-TV is getting the scoop on this, but it's actually a duology set in a totally different world. It's contemporary, so it's a modern Asian society. It has to do with death gods and the Chinese underworld and, exorcists and magic and a lot of angst. More romance than there was in Jade Fire Gold. Painful romance. And I think of it as kind of like anime-esque in a sense, in terms of like how I visually see it in my head. Yeah. So the announcement hopefully will be coming out soon.
I'm so excited. I'm trying to keep my composure, but I cannot wait to read that.
Thank you. Thank you.
The paperback for Jade Fire Gold was just released. Where can we find it for purchase?
So you can find it anywhere, actually, online, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Book Depository, indie bookstores. Yeah. And if you're in the UK, the UK paperback also just came out. It's a slightly different cover. So if you want to collect it or, if you prefer that cover, that's the option. Yeah.
I definitely am a collector. I have, I think, all the editions of your books.
Oh my God.
I have I have the Owl Crate edition.
That's the Owl Crate one.
I have the Owl Crate one. I have the Fairy Loot one. Fairy Loot? I have the Illumicrate one. Yes. I bought the Illumicrate one when they announced your debut box. So I have quite a number of copies.
Wow. Oh my God. Thanks.
And where can we find you on social media?
So I'm at June Scribbles. On all social media, Twitter, which I don't really go on now because it's Twitter, Instagram. I'm trying a little bit of TikTok, but I'm not there that often. So I would say Instagram. I think it's also June Scribbles on Tumblr, if anybody still uses Tumblr. So yeah, June Scribbles all the way.
What a cute handle.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, June. I hope our talk has inspired viewers to head out and pick up a copy of your book. I'm sure they'll be just as captivated as I was following An and Alton's journey as they explored lost families and found new ones.
Thanks for having me, Gemma, and thanks for having me, Kpop-TV. I had a lot of fun, and yeah, bye.
My guest today has been author June Seol-tan with her book, Jade Fire Gold, available for purchase wherever books are sold. If you enjoyed what you saw here and would like to see the full interview, you can find us with more conversations with authors at 24hourkpop.com. I'm Gemma for the Kpop-TV Entertainment Network, and I'll see you next time.